the state of the MCU. Yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it because after Secret Invasion, that Secret Invasion finale, whoo boy, man. It is a very hot topic right now. That that finale, it still lives rent free in my head just because of how bad it is. And look, I've been very positive about the MCU for the most part since Phase 4. Like I know a lot of people didn't like Phase 4, and as we're here in Phase 5, like movie wise, I think the movies have been about the batting average of what we've come to expect of the MCU in terms of just looking at Phases 1 and 2. Phases 1 and 2, you have some really good movies, some great movies. You got some mediocre movies, and you got some bad movies, okay? Phase 3 is really the only one where, like, you pretty much only had bangers. Like you really only had, like, great movies in it. Like, I don't think, I'm looking back at Phase 3, I can't really think of a bad movie. Like, there are movies that I don't like. Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok. But, I don't think they're bad movies. I think they might be, like, bad Spider-Man or bad Thor movies. But that's just me and my personal opinion. But as movies themselves, I don't think they're bad. Phase 4 had a bad movie in Thor Love and Thunder. Love and Blunder, as I like to call it. But, some people say, like Multiverse of Madness was bad. Like, I generally think Phases 4 and 5 so far are about where the MCU used to be of Phases 1 and 2, right? And I think people should temper their expectations of everything being like Phase 3. That's just not going to happen. But the shows, on the other hand, are, even the ones I like, they are just not up to par. They all have problems, man. And the Secret Invasion finale really just hit me. It hit me with an epiphany, right? Where the thought is now in my head looking towards the future as we get close to Kang Dynasty, right? Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, as we get close to, the Fantastic Four coming in, the X-Men coming in, where I'm like, it might be time for the MCU to reboot. I think they should use Secret Wars to reboot the MCU. And not because I think, it's all bad, because it's not. It's not. For the most part, I am very positive on the MCU whenever a new MCU movie comes out. TV shows, I'm like, I'm good on those. But the movies, I'm generally usually excited for them, right? But the fact that we got the Fantastic Four and X-Men coming in so late into the MCU, and they're not going to be able to interact with characters like Iron Man, like Captain America, Steve Rogers, and then like some of these older characters, they're going to be on their way out, man. Like Thor is definitely going to be on his way out. He's probably going to bite it in either Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, Same for Hawkeye. Like, Tom Holland's not going to want to do this forever. Like, he's waiting for Miles Morales to come along so he can get on out of there. So, like, as these important characters, the Fantastic Four and X-Men come in, it's just like, well, a lot of the other characters that they should interact with and, have stories with, they're going to be gone. They're going to be out of the way. And I think it would really behoove Marvel to, if they want to capture the cultural zeitgeist again, right? To be, one of the hot trending topics in pop culture again, in terms of just like everyone knows Marvel, everyone's on the Marvel train, Marvel is amazing. I think it's time for a reboot. And I think if you look at Mortal Kombat 1, the game, right? The new game's coming out next month. It's a rebooted timeline where they're telling all new, fresh stories, all new, fresh takes on characters, and it is awesome. Like, this is the most excited I've been for a Mortal Kombat game in forever. And it's not even necessarily because of, like, the actual gameplay, the combat. Like, obviously, I got certain characters I really want to play as. But, like, what has me excited is the story. The story of that game looks phenomenal. It looks like it's going to blow your mind because you have no idea where it's going to go. It's all new stuff. Like, it has people excited. That's what Marvel could be. if they use Secret Wars, which as an event would just make sense to use to reboot, the timelines are crashing together and then they got to reset them and like make a new timeline that's fixed and not all broken and whatnot. Like, reboot it after that. Tell fresh new takes on characters where you don't have to exactly, line up with comic expectations. Because like for a lot of these characters, these are the first time that we're seeing these characters in live action. So with that comes expectations. Okay, it's our first time seeing these characters. From the fans, they're like, you have to adapt these characters this way because it's the first time we're seeing them. You should adapt them how we know them, how we understand them. Like, when you get to characters that have been adapted on screen a few times, you can actually take it in different directions and do some fresh new takes. Look at Batman. Like, no Batman that has come out in live action since Michael Keaton has been the same. Like, they've all been new, fresh takes on them. But with a lot of these characters coming into the MCU, it's the first time we're getting them, so people expect them to be a certain way. But if you reboot the universe and you're retelling stories with these characters and you have a blank canvas to play with, there's no expectations there. There's none. And speaking of expectations, people have expectations of the MCU being what it was back in like phase 3, like I said, right? But if you do a blank slate, clean reboot, there's no more expectations that the MCU that we know should follow from what it used to be. Because now, new sandbox, man. New playing field. You don't have to hold on to the past because we're all new now. All new MCU. That's what they should do, I think. New fresh takes on characters that we've never seen before. Just let their imagination run wild with what they could do, what kind of stories they could create. And I think it would reinvigorate the passion in the fan base. And I think something like this would you'd have to take like 5 years off of the MCU. And I think that's fine. I think now we can actually use a break from the MCU, like a good 5 years, Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like, look at Star Wars. Sure, we've had a bunch of Disney Plus stuff, but movies, it's going on like 5 years since we've had a Star Wars movie, right? And now people are like, at Star Wars Celebration, when they announced the movies, people were just like, oh my God, finally, movies are back. Star Wars movies are back. You take about 5 years off of the MCU and reboot that thing and come back, boy, MCU is going to be king again. Because right now, I think not superhero fatigue. I don't think superhero fatigue is a thing. I think MCU fatigue is a thing because a lot of people, let's be real, the MCU right now, for the most part, like, they haven't put out anything that is an all-timer in a while, right? Like, Spider-Man No Way Home is probably that. Guardians Galaxy Volume 3 is probably that. But, like, consistently, they're putting out about, good to mediocre to not so good movies. And I think, in general, the audience, they're tired of movies they're tired of superhero movies not being GOAT status. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants great superhero movies, and I think that's a fair expectation to have. Like, if you can do it, if you have the capacity to put out a great superhero movie, you should strive to do that every time. But we're not getting that every time. So people are just kind of like, all right, someone, call me when we have a great movie again, That's why, like, when stuff like the Batman comes out, it's so refreshing. Even like Guardians Galaxy Volume 3, I think is a great movie. And when that came out, a lot of people were just like, okay, is the MCU back? It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen if it's back, if you even think it left to begin with. Me, I don't think it's left. I think it's just returned down back to its batting average. And for a lot of people, because of what you did in Phase 3, they expect that every single time now. You gave them that taste of Phase 3, now they want it all the time. And that might be a fair thing to want. Because if you can do that, then do it. But then again, that was the phase that was ramping up towards, the end of like that Infinity Saga. So, who knows? All I will say is this. It's time to reboot the MCU. I know it It'd be weird seeing someone else playing Iron Man or Captain America, but man, with all these new characters we're getting with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, like I want to see Reed Richards interact with Tony Stark. We're not gonna get that now because Tony's dead. You know, like I want to see Wolverine and Captain America, you know, talk about, you know, the war days, you know, catch up, be like, oh, you know, we used to fight on the battlefield and all that good stuff. Like I want to see that. I want to see Avengers versus X-Men with the actual like core Avengers still there, because they're not going to be. Like they're not. Nat's gone. Tony's gone. Steve's gone. Thor and Hawkeye, they're going to be gone. Hulk is probably going to be gone because his son is here now. So like, yeah, man, reboot the MCU. I think that would probably be in the best interest after Secret Wars. But will they do that? They're not. They're definitely not, even though they should. I feel like after Secret Wars, Kevin Feige is going to be out anyway. I feel like because he seems to be spread so thin right now, and like the Secret Invasion director said that like when they brought the idea of giving Gaia all those powers, Feige was just like, yeah, man, look, hey, free reign, do what you want, basically. And I think he's like that because he's been doing this for so long. I think he's just waiting for Secret Wars so he can get all his old school casting, you know, Marvel characters, get Toby, get Hugh, get Wesley Snipes, maybe, like get all these actors, all these characters that because he worked on a lot of that stuff back in the day. I think he wants to get all these characters, all these cameos in there, you know, have them interact, and then he's like, all right, I'm at peace. I've done what I've wanted to do all these years. I'm gone. Maybe to Star Wars. Who knows? But yeah. Reboot the MCU, please.